All right, welcome to this tutorial. It is going to be a tutorial all about HTML and it's for beginners, obviously. So why am I doing a HTML tutorial? Now, I noticed that many HTML tutorials out there are not really beginner friendly. Most of them cover topics that are not really necessary for a beginner. So what I want to do is to make a very trimmed HTML tutorial that covers just what you really need as a beginner. And that is the curriculum that you're looking at on your screen. So we'll begin by introducing HTML and what you really need to know. We'll do a boilerplate, layout, text, image, links, table, list, form, and then I'll tell you how to seek help when you run into any blocker. And that will be it, and that's how we're going to run this. So let's immediately get started. I'll just get rid of this. And then the first thing we need to do is go into your computer, and just anywhere in your computer you can create a folder. So I'll do my own on the desktop. So create a folder, so new folder, and you can name this anything you want. Once you are done with this, I use VS Code as my editor, so you can choose to use whatever is very comfortable for you. It doesn't matter. So I'll just open a new window for my VS Code like so, and I'll just drag and drop the folder I have just created. So why I love using VS Code is it simplifies a lot of things for you. So for example, creating of the file, I just need to come here and either click on this, or I right click here and say new file, whatsoever way works for you. And now you can name this file anything you wish. So index.html works for me. HTML, it works for me. You can choose to name this whatever you want. Just make sure you know this name when you are referencing it. All right. So now that we have created this file, it indicates that we are creating a HTML document. And once our compiler or interpreter, or whatever that runs this sees this file, that it has to be run on a browser. So how does this work? So you could choose to right click here, and then I have what we call a live server here. This is an extension you can download here on VS Code. So it's live server like so, and then it automatically runs your file for you. But you can also choose to go to wherever the folder is. So you can open this folder, and where you have the HTML file, just double click it. It will automatically open in a browser that is your default browser. All right. So I will not be using this because I want the changes I make to reflect automatically on the browser. So for me to do that, I'll use the live server. So once I click on the live server, it opens like a local development server for me. So whatever changes I now make here in my editor, it's going to automatically be reflected. So let me just move this to the side so that we're able to see the changes immediately we make them. All right, so that's the introduction to HTML generally, and that's what you need to know. So the next thing we'll jump right into creating the boilerplate. So what's the boilerplate? The boilerplate is the most basic part or foundation of a particular, it could be language, it could be anything generally, but the most basic part. So what are the most basic part of a HTML document? Things that needs to be there for any other thing to run. So we have two basic things, and one is the head, the other one is the body. So we always start with an angular bracket like this, and then inside of it you type in HTML. Now typing in HTML like this means that everything written within this block will be run on the browser. Now inside of the HTML we have two things that are very important, which is the head and the body. So inside of the head we put in everything that probably communicates with other things, and then we also put in our identifiers. Identifiers, I mean things that identify our site, things like the title of the site, and you can also put things like styling inside of it and scripts, stuff like that. So let's get there. So we have head like so, you open and close like this, and inside of it we just put title. So as soon as we put in a title here, it's going to reflect here on the browser. So you just watch out up there. All right. So what do we put here? I can just put your name. So my name, Njoku, Samson, Ebere. All right, save it. And as soon as we save it, it should reflect here. Okay, we don't have our body yet, so let's make sure we also have our body. All right, and save. For some reason it's not automatically reflecting, so let me refresh. Okay, good. It has reflected. I'm not sure why it was not reflecting. The live server is supposed to work automatically, but well, it didn't work. But that's it. This is the more like the boilerplate and what the boilerplate should look like. All right. But how about if you want to do what we call a shortcut? So VS Code gives you some shortcuts to create what we have today as a boilerplate, and it comes with a lot of other data or a lot of other elements that sometimes are necessary, but maybe not for a beginner. But either ways, you could just do it. So for you to do that, you just need to do this quotation mark like this and hit enter. So as soon as you do it, it gives you everything like so. Starting from what the doc type. So the doc type is telling you the document type, which is HTML. It tells you the language of this HTML file, which is English, represented with EN. And then this is the character set, UT8. You don't really need it, but it's fine. And then this is what we call the viewport, basically determining the size of your screen at a time. As we continue, we'll see more details about these things. And then let's save it and see if it changes good. It changes this time around. All right, so let me change this back to Njoku, Samson, Ebere. All right, and then save it. It changes back. So wait, I didn't know why it wasn't working that first time. And that is it. And that's the boilerplate for HTML. All right, the next thing on our list is the layout. So what is the layout all about? These are the different ways that we arrange content on top of our site. So all this goes now into the body part. So we have so many layouts. So for example, here we have the header, we have the nav, we have section, we have main, we have aside, we have footer. Now, aside from this, we have many other ones, like we have figure, we have figurehead, we have caption, I think, and many of them. But these are the ones that you really been using in your day-to-day, mostly. For more information on many of these things, I'll put in the link to the official documentation, that is MDN, inside of the description, so you don't have to worry. If you really want to go into many of these things, you can choose to do that on your own. All right, so let's get started. Now, what we are doing is generally called HTML semantics. Now, initially, we only use what we call div, that is division, in apportioning or laying out our pages. But division started becoming too, will I say, buggy, since you needed to use a lot of div. So it required that you probably specify a lot of IDs to make it different and all that. So for example, if you want to use div, you have to do this. So div. Notice that we are always starting with an angular bracket and closing with an angular bracket, and then between there'll be some content, and then we'll have the closing angular bracket with a slash. So this slash signifies that this is the close of that particular division or that particular segment. All right. Now you can now imagine that you have so much parts of your HTML page, and then you have to do say 10 of this. So if you have to do 10 of this, it becomes a bit buggy. So I'll just format this properly. All right. So you now notice what we're saying. There's so much div walking around here, and it doesn't really make sense. All right. So we'll get rid of all this. So we'll not be using divs, and it is highly discouraged. It's more like too old to be used now. So let's focus on the few HTML semantics or layouts that you should be using. So the first one is the nav, NAV, like so. Open and close like this. So what does the nav do? The nav is short for navigation. So whatsoever your navigation is going to be, it's best to put it inside of this place. So sometimes in a website, when you go to a website, you notice that there's a top banner at the top. It is usually the nav that is used to arrange that content. Now, the thing you need to know is you could use any of these HTML semantics interchangeably, but it's not going to define the content properly, and it's not going to help your website to rank on Google. So it's important that we use these HTML semantics for what they are really designed for. All right, so that is the nav. So for example, I could put that this is where my logo will be and save it. So this is my logo goes in here, right? Then something else we have is the header. This is the header. Now this is different from the head. The head goes inside of the sorry, the head goes at the top of the HTML, while the header goes inside of the body. So what does the body help us to do? This is like an introduction to a particular page. So where we have something like a hero section, we'll have something like a big caption inside of it. So we could just say hero section. Now this might not make sense a lot for someone that's just beginning, but I would demonstrate some of these sections with what we call, with a website generally. I just use a website to demonstrate this. All right, so let's save this, and then you notice that this hero section goes here. Now you might not be noticing any difference, but when you inspect what's going on here, so we inspect, and here in the element inside of the body, you notice that we have what we call a nav, and then we have what we call here a hero section. All right, so let's just close this off. This is not necessary, but I want you to understand what these HTML semantics are used for. All right, now there's another one called aside. Aside is used for usually arranging content that will stay by the side. So you think about having side menus. You think about having dashboards whereby you click and there is a menu that comes out. All right, so this is where you have, say, things like menu, side menu, by the way, because we also have a menu inside of the nav. All right, so you save it. Now this also stacks underneath like so. Okay, now another one is the main. Now the main contains the main content of a particular website. All right, so we just say main content. Now as we continue making progress, all this will make a lot of sense. So we save this, and then you have main content. All right, and then the final one we want to look at is footer. Goes like this. So down here we usually have, say, links. We might have things like copyright, copyright, if I will spell that correctly. We might also have things like the year, stuff like that, and save it. So stuff like this, and this is how the HTML semantics is being arranged. Now I don't want you to overly concern yourself with trying to memorize all these things. It will get easy as we go further, right? But this is what we call HTML semantics. So let's open up, one website and look at how the website is built, and then we'll see if we can, envision what we have been discussing. All right. I'll just open my homes, the properties. All right, so that we understand what HTML semantics is really all about. All right. Okay, great. So this is my homes.properties, one of the websites I've worked on. All right. So I told you about nav. So this at the top here is what we call the nav. All right. This is the full website. It's very responsive, and light and dark mode works very fine here. Okay, so let's change it to light mode, and then notice that at the top here we have the menu and the logo on top of here, and generally navigation, because from here you should be able to navigate to the dashboard and all of that. All right, so that is the nav. Then we have the header. The header is this first portion or this first part that contains this big write-up, this information here, the explore and all that, and the image here. Then we have the main section, which starts reading from here down up until end of this contact. Then we have the footer, which is down here, which is this dark part. All right. Now, one more semantic that we didn't mention is the section. So let's create a section here, and inside of the section we'll just add so this is a section. Now, sections don't usually stand on their own. They have to go into other semantics. So for example, you could put this section inside of the main. All right, and let me make sure this is still inside of the section. All right, great. We could also put this inside of the header, and we could put this inside of the aside. All right, something like this. So this is what we use in dividing this main. So the main is very long, but it has so many sections. So for example, we have what we do section, we have the mission statement section, we have the about us section, we have the how to use my home section, we have the pricing section, and we have the contact us section. So this is just how HTML semantics works. Now for the aside, if you eventually log into the website and you move to the menu, you'll see how that works. All right, that's not going to be a problem. Gradually, as we move on and make progress, you will see exactly how these things come together and how they play out. All right, so that is it for the layout of a HTML page. All right. All right, the next thing we're going to be looking at is text. So HTML gives you the ability to display different sizes of text depending on what its purpose is for. We have headings. So the headings, will have up to 6 of them, and then we'll have one which is P or paragraph tag. Let's get into it so that we can see what we're talking about here. All right. So I'll just minimize this, and then I would clear off everything that is here inside of the body so that it is easy. All right, and I'll just save it so that this clears off. Great. All right, so like I said, we have what we call headings. So this is H1. Always remember to open and close like so. So you have H1 like so and H1 to close. Make sure that the closing one has the backslash. All right. So we'll have the H1, which is the biggest tag, and it runs down to H6. All right. So what do we put in here? We could of course put my name as usual, Njoku Samson. So just copy it inside of it like this, put it in and save it, and it gives us a very huge Njoku Samson. Now let's differentiate it, and so I'll copy this 5 more times. So copy and paste, paste, paste. All right, and then I'll start changing this as we go down. So we have H2 like this, and I'll come down and change this to H3. Make sure that as you change it in the opening tag, it also changes at the end. I am using a shortcut that makes it possible for me to change it at once. So if you don't have that, you have to manually change it. All right. So 5 and then 6 like so, and then I'll just save it. And notice how they grow smaller according to the number of the heading. And then finally we have the P tag, which is short for paragraph. Inside of this, I can also let me get rid of this and change this to P. I can also put in my name and save. As you save it, you now notice the difference between the P and the rest. The major difference is that all the headings are having a very heavy weight, or what we call bold. They are all bold and strong. But for the P tag, which is about the same size with the H3, it is not bold. So except you choose to top up the weight or stuff like that, this is how it stays at its natural form. And this is how you add text to your website. We could just copy some text from a random website. So let's go back to my homes, the property. I think I have a lot of content there. So I'll just wait for it to load. I think I have some sort of poor reception. inside of here. But let's give it a moment. Hopefully it loads up correctly. All right. And we have one additional one which you're likely not going to use, so you don't have to worry about it. And this is pre. Um, so basically, the difference between pre and then paragraph is that everything you put inside of pre stays like that, the way it is inside of the code editor, stuff like that. So, like I told you, you don't need it. It's for me, it's not necessary. All right. So let's just copy the bunch of text here. So I just copy this and then put it inside of the p tag like so, and let me format it just so that it stays well and save it, then view it here. Now you notice that as I open up my browser, it readjusts. All right, now let's compare it to the pre tag. Let's paste same thing inside of the pre tag, and then let me format it. You notice that as I tried to format it, it didn't work out as I planned. Why? The reason is being because the pre tag only takes in the content in the format you put it. So when I save it, it's going to give me a very long line of text. Now I do not want a very long line of text. I want it to bear this format, whether I expand or I close. All right. So what I can do is to copy this formatted one like so, and then replace what I have here with it. So pre, paste it like so, and then save it. Now you now notice that whatsoever happens is going to stay like that. You don't need to give it any extra formatting. And that's the difference between a p and a pre tag, basically. And this is how you add text to your HTML website or document. All right, great. The next will be adding image, and this is as simple as it gets. So let me minimize this again, and let me clear the text we already have here. Okay. And how do you add image? It's as simple as using an img tag. All right, and make sure you close it. Now this is different from the regular HTML element that we'll be using. So initially, when we open, we close like so.
Okay, I found this on the web for Hey Samuel elements.
All right, so sorry, that's Siri. So it's picking up my voice. Okay, so usually this will have been the format, but HTML have what we call self-closing tags. So you don't know how to close them like so. Everything can happen in the first tag. So we'll get rid of this. But inside of the opening tag, we put a backslash towards the end of the tag, and this makes it a self-closing tag. Inside of this self-closing tag, we need to specify where the image is coming from. So put a source src like so. It's going to collect the link to that image. So if you have a link locally, you just put in the path. And if you don't have a link locally, you want to use something, something on the web. So like I could get the link to this image. So copy link address like so, and then paste it here. So once I paste this link here and save it, it should appear here on my page. So I save it, and then it loads up. So you notice that my face has load up. Now, sometimes we could try to get this image to be smaller or bigger depending on what we want. So it also comes with a width and height property. So I could just say this should be 100 pixel and save it. So as soon as you save it, you see that the image becomes smaller. You could also indicate what you want the height to be. You could choose to also make the height 100 pixel. As it gets smaller, you could choose to make it 200, then it gets longer, and stuff like that. You could just choose to move this around the way you wish. And this is just how you add images to your website. Now, something that's very important as you add images to your website is an alternative text, which is shortened by alt. So what does this mean? This means a text that will be seen in case your image is broken. That's just it. So we could just put an Njoku, Samson as my name, of course, and paste it, save it. Now you won't see it here because, of course, the image is not broken. But let's say we want to break this image and remove one letter inside of the link. So this breaks it, save it, and then you notice that it's gone. We can't find it. But what we can see is the alternative text, Njoku Samson, which shows the person viewing outside that there's an image here, and this is the person who is on the image. So you need to make this alt text as descriptive as possible. All right. Now, if we fix our broken image and save it back, we'll have our image immediately. Now, how about if you want to use an image inside of your computer system? So if you want to do that, let's get an image. So I'll just get a random image from the internet. And not a random. Let's use this one. So let's do save image as, and I will just save the image. All right, it's saved already, and inside of this folder. So I'll just copy it. Let's copy, and I'll paste it inside of my folder here. So as soon as I paste it, I now have access to it. All right, so here it's now appearing here. So for me to link to this image, I'll just copy the parts of this image. All right, so let me get rid of the initial source here and then paste this. All right, so because it's in the same folder with my file, I don't need to start navigating or stuff like that. I just have it that way. All right, so I'll save it. I'll save what I have here, and we should have the same result because it is of course the same image. So just to make sure I don't continue to use the same image. All right, so let me just get an image online. Image, maybe a flower image, flower, so that I will make sure I'm using something different, right? So I have some sort of poor reception, so sorry about that, and it's going to load up in a minute. Let's give it a moment. And now as that loads, let me show you how you navigate through a folder that is inside of your file. All right, so let's do image or images, save, and then let's move this inside of the image. So as soon as we move it, we should have our site broken because we are no longer referencing it properly. So for us to reference this properly, we need to come here and start with a dot slash, then images and slash the name of the file, like that. So let me make sure you're seeing this properly. So what we did here is dot slash, which shows that we're navigating into an image or images folder, and then slash the image itself. All right, so I'm not sure why this is not loading up properly, but I think we've been able to demonstrate this properly. Let's use this image since it's also here on the side. I just want to make sure that we have a different image, so save image as. All right, great, I saved that, and that image might need renaming. Let me see if I could save this too. All right, save it. All right, and which other one? Okay, let's save multiple. So one of the projects you could do with this, having the knowledge of this image, is you can of course create what we call an image gallery. It's going to be a very beautiful project for you to try out, and we'll just do something similar to an image gallery immediately. So now that we have been able to navigate properly into the image folder, once we save it, we should have our image back. But what we want to do this time around is to try other images and maybe create an image gallery. Not a bad short project. Let's do that. So let's get all of this. No, we just need let's just take these 4. Great. And then inside of the folder here, we'll just paste it. I'm not sure, did I do that right? So we'll copy it and then make sure to paste it right. Let me just move it. Great. All right, so I'm not sure why that wasn't working. So let's create something like an image gallery where you could see multiple images. All right, so we'll just get rid of the height and the width, and all we'll be doing is change the image and change the alt text. All right, so slash the dig house is the first one, and then let's change the name here to dig house, something like that. And then we're doing 4 more of the same. All right, so the next one, we have one named download. So download one dot jpg, and then we have another one, download dot jpeg, and then we have the last one we want to use, slash real estate now. No, let's just save that. As soon as we save it, notice how it all comes together. So just get rid of this, and then I just want to make sure you are seeing everything we are doing correctly. So we have 4 images, and each of them have their different names. So we could just change the alt image to download one. We need to make sure that we have very descriptive names if we are building a real project, and then real estate, stuff like that, and just save it. Now notice that because we didn't specify the height of this first image, it's taking up the whole line, and in fact it's exceeding the web page. Same thing with some of these other ones, because we didn't specify they're either too small or too big, stuff like that. So let's make sure that all of them have their height and width specified. So let's give them a width of say 500 pixels, and then a height maybe 500 pixels. Let's just see what comes out. So we'll paste it. We'll paste and paste. Great. Save, and then notice that all of them becomes the same size all across from the beginning to the end. This is why sometimes it's really great to apply the height and the width, so that you have exactly what you really need. And this is this is what an image gallery would look like, having different image and being able to view them, stuff like that. And this is how you add images to your HTML website. All right. Next up is links. Now there's just one tag that we use to make links in HTML. After that is tables. All right, let's clear off what we have here. So make sure we clear this off. I think I've gotten rid of my body. Let me close that. All right, great. So if you want to create a link, say you want to link one, maybe from your website to some other website, all you need is the A tag. Now the A tag is also a self-closing tag. Sorry, the A tag is not a self-closing tag. I made that mistake. Inside of here, you now write the name of the link. So we could just do, well, my homes. All right. When you save it, it shows like this, and you can't link this. Now, why is this so? Because you've not indicated where you're supposed to link it to. So for it to indicate where you're supposed to link it to, so you need to do what we call a href, href, like so, and you are going to put the link to where you want it to go to. So we just copy the link and paste it inside like so. All right. But once you do this and you save it, this time around, this changes to a link automatically. Notice how there's an underline, there's a color blue or purple, and then once you click on it, it navigates you to the website. All right, so it's loading up the website automatically. Oh, let's go back to what we're working on. Now, sometimes you notice that when you click on a link, it takes you to another or opens another tab for you. So for you to do that, you need to add what we call a tab. So let me bring this down so that it's easy to see. All right, and then even the href, let's bring it down a little bit. Okay, so inside of here, you could just put target and underscore blank. Save it. So once you save it and you click on this time around, notice that it opens in a new tab. We can close this off. Now the target blank has many attributes. So one of them is self, and self is the default one. That's why we don't indicate it. But generally, if you want your link to lead to another site, you just add the underscore blank. If you don't want it to lead to any other site, you don't have to add anything. And that's how you add links to your website, basically. Nothing more, nothing less. All right. Now, next up would be tables. So we'll now look at how we can create a table inside of our website. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Now, for you to create a table, you begin with a table attribute. Now, like I told you, you don't have to memorize these things. These things are almost self-descriptive in the form they come. So, for example, this is table now, and all you need is a table tag, which you open and close. Now, inside of the table tag, we need the table head and then the table body. So let's do the table head. Sorry, T head is T head like so. And then there is the table body like so. Now inside of the table head, we want to specify the headings technically. That's just it. All right. So inside of this, we could create a row. So for us to create a row, we use a tr, which is short for table row. Now inside of the table row, you create td, which is short for table data. So td, short for table data. And then you could put something like serial number. So we imagine that this is serial number. And then let's copy and paste that. And then create, say, we could do name, email, stuff like that, email. And maybe we'll add one more, put age. So we save that. And notice how it is showing on top of here. So we have we have serial number, name, age. So what's the work of this table row? Now, when you remove the table row, you notice that nothing changes. So the work of the table row is to make sure that this is one row inside of a component, inside of an element. So if you want to make this multiple, you just have to copy and paste this and save it. I notice that I have a second row there. Now, if you don't use the table row and you try to have a second row, but you paste it inside like this, you notice that it continues on the same line. So it's important that we use a table row whenever we are specifying a particular line. So we save that and it comes back to what we really wanted. Okay, now we do the same thing inside of the table body. Same thing, we want to specify a table row, and inside of this we specify a table data. So serial number 1 and copy paste like so, and then we specify a name. So name Njoku, email Njoku at gmail.com, and then age, you can put 10. All right, now that we have specified this, we want to make sure that we have up to 3 of them or 4 depending. Save it, and notice that it starts following that particular pattern of the top. So we want to make sure that whatsoever you have down here is exactly in the same form as what you have at the top. All right, so we can change this to Samson. We can also change this to Samson, and maybe change this to 20. Save it, and you see how it's changing. Okay, we can change this to Ebere. We'll do the same thing for this. Make sure this is capital since it's an M. Save that like so. And the last one, we'll do plenty. Same thing down here. Save it, and you see everything changing. So this is how you create a table in HTML. All right. Okay, great. As we continue at later times, you will notice that it's possible for you to add stylings, and make this even make more sense like that. It is now time to look at lists. So how do we create a list in HTML? It is also as simple as it gets. So let's jump right in. So for us to create a list, we just need to specify 2 things, or one of 2 things. Either it's an unordered list or an unordered list or an ordered list. All right. Okay. So basically, for you to do a list, you just put an li and you put whatsoever that you need. and immediately you see it showing up here. All right. But sometimes this is what we call an unordered list. So by default, lists are unordered. But sometimes we want to know if this is ordered or unordered, depending on what we want to do. So for us to do this, we need to specify them. So for unordered lists, you use a UL, which is short for unordered list, and then inside of it, you can now paste in the things you want. So li like so, and then you can change the list of things inside. My name, um, can put number here. We can put states to country, something like that, Africa, something like that. All right, and then we just make this look nicer and save. So as soon as we save, notice how it is properly indented, and all of them have this unordered list dots. All right. Now for you to change it to an ordered list, not an unordered list, so you just change this from UL to OL. That's just what you need, and save it. And notice that you now have numbers instead of just the dots there. And that's just how you create a list in a HTML website or document. All right, let's talk about commenting. Commenting on inside of HTML files. So now I've put in some data here. This just details I got from the about page of the my homes, the properties. So just about my home. Now our file is getting bigger, and as it gets bigger, it might be a bit difficult to read through. So why not let's be able to find out details about every particular block of code by giving comment or traces. So how do we comment? So to comment, you just need to do an open angular bracket, and then you add an exclamation mark, then double hyphen like so. It also comes with a closing hyphen. So let's just get rid of this, and then let's say this is heading. After the heading, we close it like so, and then this becomes our comment. Now when you save this, it doesn't show on the page. Now the reason why it doesn't show on the page is because it is a comment. So comments are not meant to be seen on the page. They are meant to make your code more readable. So once they become more readable, it is easy to maintain and know what happens when you come to the future, when you come back in the future. So we could say this is first paragraph, like so. Sorry, let's come down here. We could say this is second paragraph, like that. We could come down here and say this is services, lists of services, like that, and save them. So while we can't see these comments here on the page, we can see them here in the code. Notice how they help us to make our code more readable compared to what we had before. So imagine you had only pp tag like this, like we have up to 3, and you need to start reading through the content before you know what is really going on there. It becomes a little too difficult and messed up. So that's comment for you, and that's how to write comments. All right, the time has now arrived for us to look at forms. Forms are unavoidable as long as you're building a HTML website. When working with website generally, from now to then you hear fill this form or fill that form. So let's see how these forms are usually made. So let's get right to it. Inside of here, let's make sure to save this to clear off what we'll have here. So for you to create a form, like the name implies, you just need a form opening and closing tag, like so. So the first thing you want to do usually in your forms is to maybe create a heading. So you can use your maybe H3 to do that heading, my form, stuff like that, and save that. All right. Now after this, the next thing you most likely see in many occasions is where they ask you to fill in your name, your phone number, maybe your email, stuff like that. Now the good thing is that most of these things comes outside of the box for us. So for us to create an input box, you need an input tag. right? So this is input, like so, and it is a self-closing HTML tag like this. If you save it, you see an empty tag here. Now, but we need to specify what this is for. So for us to specify, first of all, we need to give it like a label. So for us to put that label, you use the tag label like so. It is not a self-closing tag. So inside of it, you put in the name. So once you put in this name and save it, automatically it shows up like this. You can just add the colon here, just make it look nicer. All right, now here in the input, we need to specify like the name. So the name would be dependent on what this is supposed to be. So what we want to use it for is for the full name. Now this will be referenced eventually in the future when you're working at referencing this. You could also have what we call a placeholder. Placeholder text are used to tell users what they should do with this. So tell them enter full name, stuff like that. So once you put the placeholder, once you start typing, the placeholder disappears, stuff like that. You could also specify a value. A value is going to be what's inside of it, stuff like that. So value and my name Njoku. Save it, and it's going to override the placeholder text. So the placeholder is just temporary, but the value is what's there permanently. So anytime we don't have a placeholder, sorry, anytime we don't have a value, then our placeholder text works for us. So we could empty this, save it, and you notice that our placeholder text will be shown. Now, very important is the type. Now, by default, it's going to be a type of text. So if you don't indicate the type, it's going to be a type of text. But we want to be more specific about what we want to use this for. So we could specify that we want to use this for name, like so. We could specify that we want to use this for email. Now, the difference is now that this would now require, sorry, I didn't spell this right. The difference is that this will now require that you put in your what's the name, the @ sign. So for example, you would not just write say Sam here and leave. You would need to specify that this is @ something, which shows that it is an email. So that's the good thing about specifying the purpose or the type of a particular input. It could also be tel. So once you put tel here and save it, it means that this will be requiring a number. Now, if you open this inside of a mobile phone, you notice that all you'll be seeing are numbers and a few signs or symbols that you can use in a phone number. There's still many of them. We still have color. So once you specify color and save, you notice that you can now select different colors like so. All right. We still have which other type do we have? We have a bunch of them, but you can explore them. I'll make sure I add a link to the full documentation, HTML documentation down in the link, down in the description below, so that you have access to all of them. And that is it for inputs, input box like that. Now we could have a type of submit. Yeah, a type of submit is more like a button. So when you write submit like so and save, everything changes. So this becomes a button. Now this is a bit different from our regular input. So you will not be needing the placeholder for this. What you will really be needing is the value. So you click save and then you have click like that. So you have to specify the value for this one for you to have this button showing. All right, and you can get rid of the label if you're using a button like that. And that's it for input. So the next thing we will be looking at is checkboxes. So we have what we call checkboxes, whereby you can have multiple checkboxes, and the difference between checkboxes and what we call a radio button is that for checkboxes you can pick more than one value, but for a radio button you have to pick one value at a time. So let's create a set of checkboxes and understand what we're talking about. So when we do an input, and we say it's a type of checkbox like so. We also want to specify the name, the ID. So we could specify and say the name is okay, let's say Njoku, like that. The value is Njoku, and then the ID is Njoku, and then the value is also Njoku, like so. So usually the name should be in small letters. Let me bring this down so that you can see everything I'm doing in multiple lines. All right. Remember that it's supposed to be a self-closing tag, so close it and save. So once we save it, we want to make sure we give it a name. So we could also use a label here. So let's use label. All right. So for the label, we're using Njoku, like so, and save it. So we'll check it and uncheck, check and uncheck, check and uncheck, like so. We could have multiple of this, So let's copy like that. So having multiple of this, we need to make sure that the names are different, name and the value, because you can't have them using the same name and value. So just let me make this not capital letter. Okay. Same thing for the ID. Now IDs, now that's where it gets tricky. So for the value, let's keep the value like so. For a bearer, value would be the same thing. Now for the ID, we need to make sure that all of these checkboxes have the same ID. That's the only way we can indicate that all these checkboxes are for the same they are referring to the same thing. So sometimes you are told to check all that applies. So if you don't specify that all the IDs are the same thing, then when you check multiple, it's going to be referring to different things, and so it's not going to function the right way. So we could just make this, and we could leave it at ID Njoku, or we could just change all of it to something more unique. So my form could use my form checkbox, like so. So with this, we are now indicating that all of these are referring to the same thing. Now this applies also even to checkboxes. But now the difference between checkboxes and what we are doing here is that for checkboxes you can only pick one value at a time, but for this you can pick multiple values. So I can pick one value at a time. But if it is a radio button, I can only pick one at a time. So for us to compare, all we need to do is change this to radio button. So we change them from type of checkbox to radio button, type radio. All right. So once you have this, click on this, you click on this, can click on this, like so. All right. I think I made a mistake. The IDs are supposed to be different. That's where I made the mistake. The IDs are supposed to be different, but the names are supposed to be the same. So let's change all of that. So change all of this. All right. Now for the ID, let's put it back to where it's supposed to be. So the ID can be the same value with the value, like so. So save that, and then we click, and now you notice that you can only click one at a time. Make sure that the names are the same, not the ID. Don't make the mistake I made. All right, so this is for checkbox. This is for radio buttons. For radio buttons, you can pick only one option at a time, but for checkbox, you can pick more than one the same time. All right, great. Now, aside from this, we have buttons. So buttons are similar to the input with a type of submit. So all you need to do here is just specify button. Even if you don't specify any other thing, you can just put in the value of what you want here. So you put in click and save, like so. See, all right. And inside of it, you could now choose to put in the type of submit. And then we have other type of buttons. So for example, there's a type of reset. So you do a reset, save it like so. So you could check, you could pick any of this, you could click reset, you could click submit and all. Now notice the difference between click, which is the regular submit button, and the reset. So if you click on anything here, all right, and you click on click, which is the regular button, it does like it refreshes the page kind of, but actually what happens is submit. Now if you check inside of the address bar here, you notice that it's showing you my form equal to Ebere, which is indicating the checkbox being used, which is the name here, and then the value of the particular checkbox. All right, now let's clear all of this, and then let's check something here and click reset. Now you notice that instead of this to maybe do like reset the page or try to submit, what it does, it resets the value. So when you click on this and click reset, it resets the value. So that's the basic difference. So if you want to have something like that that resets what's on the form, that's the simple way to do it. Something else we can talk about is the text area. Text area. Now the difference between a text area and a regular input box is that for a text area it's bigger, but the input box is smaller. We'll demonstrate all of this again. So this is a text area. You notice that it is big. Of course, all of them usually have the attribute of name, ID. You can choose to specify that and all. So So if you want to say, for example, put in a value here, you could, as usual, come in between here and type in some gibberish. But usually, of course, we usually pass in our value, not like this. We'll pass in values dynamically, so you don't have to worry about this. In most cases, we'll have to leave this blank like so. Something else we can specify is the row, the amount of rows and columns that this could have. So when we talk about rows, we are talking about how high it's going to be. Amount of columns is how wide it's going to be. So for example, we could put this to be 100. It's going to be very big, and put this to be 50. Save it, and then you see how big it gets. I could bring this down to 50 so that you see how big it gets. All right. We could actually make this 10. Sorry, 10. Save it, and then you see how wide and how high it gets. You can type inside of it. Now this is how it differs from the input. Now you notice that the input is usually just one line, so input of text, and then make sure you close like so. Save it. You just have it small like this. You can't make it longer, you can't make it higher, or to be bigger than this. All right, so that's the basic difference. In creating a form, usually you use something big like this if you want to put in, say, description, about, or stuff like that. But use your regular input for things like name, phone number, things that are not going to be generally long. And as usual, if you type into any of these and you click on reset, it's going to reset everything because you are inside of the same form. Now if this button is outside of this form, it's not going to have this impact. So always remember to put in everything inside of a form tag. Now the next one, which should be the last one we're going to be looking at, is the select. The select. So the select gives you drop-down menu options for you to select options, stuff like that. So instead of this, we have what's called options. So we'll have multiple of this. So we'll just copy and paste, say 3-4 times. So in the first place, Njoku. The second one, Samson, if I'll spell that correctly. The third one, Ebere. Last one, Plenty. So once you save it, you notice that you now have a drop down. So once you hit the drop down like this, you can pick any of the options there. All right. Now, some other attributes you need to know is you have a value. So this value would actually be what, say, if you're building a let's say full stack application. This value is what will be recorded and sent back. So this one is between the option tags is for visual representation, but what we actually work with is then the value. So you could choose to just make this different, like 1. Same thing for this, you could make it different, like 2, like this, like so. Value, make it like 3. Come down here, value, make it like 4, stuff like that. So when you try to submit, what you're going to be submitting is the value, not what you have here in the text. So that is it. With forms generally, that's everything you really need to know about form. As we keep going further, you will learn more and come to appreciate more about form and how it should be used. All right, so we have been able to navigate the whole of HTML, what you really need to know as a beginner. Like I said from beginning, we are not looking at everything about HTML, so you need to bear that in mind. Once you bear this in mind, you don't need to be jumping from one tutorial to the other. Focus on this tutorial, and then gradually, as you build more things, you get to learn many more things. So the last point where we are is how to seek help. Like every other developer, you might run into one bug or the other, which is normal. It is not a bad thing. But how do you solve problems when you hit problems? So what we developers usually do is to go to the internet. So say for example, something is not working the way you planned it to be. So say for example, when we try to make an image, so let me get rid of everything here. Say for example, when we try to make an image, so be fast with this. Okay, I'll put in the source, and then inside of here I'll put in this, okay, and save it. So now that we saved it, let's say I'm wondering why this is taking up the whole page. Let's say for any reason I forgot. So I could just go to the internet and ask and say my image takes all the space on my website. How can I make it look nicer? So I will just hit enter, and it's going to search out for us different answers that people have dropped, or it could be articles, it could be videos that people have written, stuff like that. So I'm looking through this, how to optimize images. That's not what we are looking for. Is that no? So what we are really looking for is how to make our image just take up a little portion of our website, not all the whole portion. So this is not giving us exactly what we want. So we need to change what we ask. So we'll clear this off, and we could say make image take less space. So this is still taking us to different things, but this is changing. So how do I reduce the file size of an image? We're not really looking at reducing the file size. So let's change this yet to something else. So so we could say something like make image smaller. So we want to make it smaller in width and size, in width and height, something like that. So something like resize image, resize. So something we did not add is say HTML code. something like that. HTML code. You see how to resize image in HTML. So we've gotten something that really makes sense. We could also see W3 school image HTML image width attribute, how to make image smaller. You see, so the keywords we use when searching for problems really matter. So we've been using different keywords that was leading us to different things. We were not being specific. You see, this time around we added HTML code, and everything we are now talking about is HTML, HTML, HTML. So any of this would work. So for example, when you open this and you check what it has, you notice that already from here it's telling us using height and width, and it looks like what our problem here is the height and width. Is that not so? If you open HTML img width attribute, W3 school, stuff like that, now we notice that okay, we have alt, we have width, we have height, and when we try this out, we notice that this is staying within the page as we want. So we can come back here and now specify our own and say okay, we want width of say 500, and we want height of say 300, stuff like that. Save it and come back to our page. Notice that it now takes up the part of the page that we really want. So this is how to seek help. But beyond this, I am also creating like a community where you can get help. It's going to be a Discord community, and I'll add the link down in the description. I want beginners to be able to interact with each other and get to learn from each other. Then we'll also have people who have stayed a while in the engineering field experience. I'll also be in that group whereby you can ask questions. I will try to give you answers to those questions. It would be really nice if you can join so that you can get specific answers to your question. If it is possible to jump on a call with some people, we're going to do that. And also, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video to as many people as possible, especially beginners. I look forward to seeing you on Discord. Something else we'll be doing on Discord is I'll be sharing projects. So the projects that will really help you to solidify what you are doing would be shared there on Discord. So if you want to have access to those projects, please join the Discord channel, and do not forget to again like, share, subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you in my next tutorial.